There we are. There we are. Hi there. I'm Katz from Rebloom Room, and here today I'm very excited to be speaking with Dr. Kimani. Dr. Kimani Norrington Sands is a licensed clinical psychologist, and she helps Black women to remove themselves from toxic jobs and um, dysfunctional workplaces, and she's on a mission. She's on a mission. So she is also the co-creator with Marissa Price of the Job Liberation Virtual Summit for Black Women, which is happening May 18th and 19th. And we can talk about that in a bit. But yeah, today we're going to talk about what happens while you're in a job, sort of the things that can be damaging to your mental and physical health. And then we'll talk about sort of what happens after you quit that job, because that tension just doesn't leave you immediately. What can you do after you quit to help to recover your mental and physical health? So welcome, Dr. Kimani. Thank you so much for joining us this morning or
Thank
this
you, Kat.
afternoon. Where are you located? You're in Eastern Time
It's
Zone?
this morning here. Yeah, I'm in Los
Okay.
Angeles.
Okay. West. Oh, you're west. You're west. Okay, good. Yes. So, Dr. Kimani, tell us who you are and what you do, who
Okay.
you help.
Yes. Okay. So again, I'm Dr. Kimani. I'm a licensed clinical psychologist. I'm originally from Chicago, but I live in Los Angeles. I'm a proud alum of Spelman College. I always like to say that I love my alma mater. And as a result of a toxic, very toxic work environment, I was really damaged. I was really harmed in so many different ways, working in a mental health unit. So it seems ironic that I experienced harm in a mental health unit, still tasked to help other people.
Mm-hmm.
But as a result of my experiences and trying to heal from that and trying to figure out what to do, I eventually took a leave of absence from that job. While I was on a leave of absence, I participated in Stephanie Perry's YouTube challenge. And she was asking, well, what do you want to talk about? And I said, I think maybe Black women in toxic jobs. And she was like, do this today. Like, we need to have people talking about this. And so when I was on the leave, I started the YouTube channel and I started talking about it more so for me to try to get this out of my system, right? Because it was so much that I was holding in. I just wanted to get it out of my system. And I knew that the job was trying to humiliate me and silence me. So my response was, I'm going to get louder. I'm going to get on YouTube and I'm going to share with the world about what you all did to me because I didn't do anything wrong, right?
Yeah.
I think a lot of times when these toxic situations happen, we internalize it and then we start thinking, what did I do wrong? I'm so embarrassed. I'm so ashamed, blah, blah. I was like, no. So when I started doing that, more Black women started reaching out to me. And then I started interviewing Black women. And then I had like Black women around the world reaching out to me saying, this is my experience too. I'm so glad you're talking about this. I thought I was alone. I thought I was crazy, like all these other things. And that just motivated me to keep talking about it. So the longer I've been talking about it and the more feedback that I'm getting from Black women who are really telling me, thank you so much for talking about this.
Yeah.
Now I am ushering in a movement to help Black women leave and heal from toxic jobs because it's such a mental mind F, when you're in that experience that you start to believe that you cannot leave and that you cannot do well if you leave the toxic job. So I want to let Black women know that you can leave. You do have options to make money, not leaving and then you're just out there doing nothing, right? You have options to make money. You don't have to stay in an environment that is continuing to harm you significantly, right? And a lot of times, Black women, we lie to ourselves, say, I got this, I'm strong. Blah, blah, blah. It's taking a toll on you and your family.
Yeah, you mentioned that sort of it's the self-censorship because I definitely noticed that in myself when I was at a dysfunctional workplace. And there's also I didn't feel this, but I know that some feel sort of a shame, like you're feeling, like you were saying, someone can feel like it's their fault, they did something wrong. And so there's that more and more silencing and self-questioning and maybe talk a little bit more about what kind of mental and physical effects that a toxic job can have on a person.
Yeah, well, one of the things that the shame is they're trying to shame you. So then, of
Mhm.
course, you feel the shame because they're trying to humiliate you. So then, what can happen is you can start experiencing a sense of self-loathing and the sense
Mm.
that you didn't speak up for yourself or you allowed these people to do these things to you, even though you're
Mhm.
in a system that doesn't really allow you to speak up or nobody really cares. Nobody's going to really help you.
Mhm.
But what we do many times is we start internalizing that and really self-loathing, like, "I can't believe I did
Mhm.
that. I keep letting people walk all over me," that kind of thing, right? Which
Mm.
can fuel that and other things can fuel depression. So that
Mhm.
sense of sadness, helplessness, hopelessness,
Mhm.
crying,
Mm.
social withdrawal,
Mhm.
fatigue, like exhausted all the time, loss of interest in other activities. In
Yeah.
fact, I'm gonna do a video, I think it's gonna come out tomorrow, where I talk about my own mental health
Mhm.
symptoms as a result of the toxic job, right? I can clearly say it was a result of the toxic job. So
Mhm.
that's some of the things. Now, at the other extreme, I didn't experience this, but at the other extreme, you can have people who experience suicidal thoughts and
Mhm.
behaviors because of what happens at the job. That's
Mhm.
the extreme. And that's
Yeah.
another reason why I want to talk about this because, we have seen what's happened with Dr. Antoinette Bonnie Candia Bailey. So
Mhm.
people are like, oh, it's not, no, it can be extremely serious. And
Yeah.
it gets to that point where you really do feel that helplessness and
Mhm.
hopelessness. So
Mhm.
that's I want to be very open about the experience,
Mhm.
recognize that the trauma is from the job,
Mhm.
and what you need to do to get help, right?
Yes.
So
Yeah.
that's the mental health part. The
Mhm.
physical part can range. So
Yeah.
it could be like high blood pressure, your blood pressure is
Mhm.
going up,
Mhm.
difficulty sleeping, weight
Mhm.
gain, weight
Mhm.
loss,
Mhm.
um, hair falling out. That happens to me. Hair falling
Mhm.
I was
Mhm.
having profuse nosebleeds, never had nosebleeds ever, ever, ever in my life,
Oh,
right?
wow.
Then I started
Mm.
having profuse nosebleeds,
Mhm.
back pain, stomach pain, headaches. So
Yeah.
there's a range of things that could happen to us, and we have
Mhm.
to pay attention to that. Not
Yeah.
just say, "Oh, well, let me take a Tylenol or let me do this."
Mhm.
There's something wrong. You need to look at what is the source of what is
Yeah.
making me sick.
Yeah. Yeah, I experienced that myself. I was having, like, I kept having to get different glasses. Like, I
Mhm.
was, like, trying to get my prescription right, and nobody could get it right, and then I finally went to the retina specialist, and they were like, "Oh, you have a stress-induced retinopathy." And I had this it was almost like an eclipse, like, you couldn't see it from the outside, but, like, it looked from my vantage point like there was an eclipse, like, it was like a dark spot
Wow.
that was getting bigger and bigger. Yeah, it was getting bigger, and I was like, "Okay, I can see better if I go like that."
Wow.
Yeah, yeah, it was literally caused by stress is what my
Yes.
the
Yes.
retina specialist said.
First of all, I'm so glad that you did that follow-up, to make
Mhm.
sure you got that understanding.
Yeah.
But a lot of times there's things happening to our bodies with stress that we can't see, we don't know
Mm,
until the
mhm.
damage has already happened. So there's something
Yeah.
called weathering, where
Mhm.
our organs are aging at a
Mm.
faster rate based upon the stress we're experiencing, particularly chronic stress. And as
Mhm.
Black women, we have to be very mindful of this because we've seen a lot of high-profile Black women dying unexpectedly because of
Mhm.
stress-related things. Now, they're in high-profile jobs. We don't know if it's necessarily due to jobs, but
Mhm.
just think about the stress level. So we
Yeah,
have to be
imagine.
mindful of that. And just for me, when I was at the previous toxic job, when you think about stress and you think about the environment, I was very aware that a lot of Black women who are not that much older than me were dying. And so that was like a wake-up call to me. So they were
Mhm.
dying, they were developing cancer, having heart
Yes.
attacks, having
Yes.
strokes,
Yes.
all those things. And
Yes.
so we have to be mindful of what's happening not only to us, but people around us as well.
Yeah. Yeah, I had a couple of wake up calls too at my job. There was someone, a Black woman who was diagnosed with cancer,
Mhm.
high profile, and she literally worked until the day before she died.
What?
Yeah,
Oh my
yeah.
gosh.
It was just so disheartening to watch. It was really disheartening to watch
Yes.
that.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And
And
the
that's
other yeah, go ahead.
I'm sorry. That's the situation too sometimes where sometimes our identity gets merged with our job position.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
so we have to be able to distinguish this is something I do for money. That's not who I am. But
Mhm.
being able to distinguish that and being able to say, you know what, maybe I love the work that I do, but
Mhm.
maybe not here. Maybe I can do
Mhm.
this work somewhere else. It's not as toxic as what I'm in right now.
Yeah, yeah. So, did you have a specific wake-up call when it was your turn to leave
Oh,
that job? What was that?
yeah. Um, well, I had a lot of like mini wake up calls or a lot of
Mhm.
like kind of call ins, like you
Mhm.
need to leave, right?
Mm.
But and I'm going to be very transparent. I disregarded them, not
Yeah, of
disregarded them.
course.
I didn't heed what they
Yeah,
were saying, right?
yeah.
So I had sister friends around me telling me, "Come on, you got to go. You got to go. This is
Mm.
not a healthy environment. There's a
Mhm.
better path for you. You got to go." I
Mm.
heard them, but I think I was so scared to leave that
Yeah.
I was like, "No, what about how am I going to survive? How am I going to?" Right?
Mhm.
That's the
Of
part. That's
course.
the mental trickery
Yeah.
because why would I think that I couldn't get another job if I was already a licensed clinical psychologist before I even started the job, right? But
Mhm.
that's part of the mental part. So
Mhm.
I had that. I had my Black woman therapist say to me, "You gotta go. This stress is gonna kill you. You gotta
Mm.
go. This is a rescue mission from God to get you out that job. You're gonna be doing something much bigger. You gotta go."
Mm.
I
Mm.
heard her, still scared, right?
Right.
My family, right? How do you go? Like, you need to go. You need to go. My youngest son, Mom, please don't go back there, right?
Mm.
Heard it, still stuck by the fear, right?
Yes.
I was in the parking lot to get another extension of my stress leave because the job was making me sick, right?
Mhm.
Getting another extension of my sick leave. I get in the doctor's office parking lot. I start crying hysterically,
Mhm.
right? It was like the inner little girl in me was like, "Don't make me go back there. Don't make
Yeah.
me go back there," right?
Mhm.
I still stayed,
Yeah.
right? So it wasn't until I was in the shower and I heard the voice of God say to me, "If you go back to that job, it's a death sentence." That was it.
Oh.
That was
Oh.
it, right? So I got out the shower, got dressed, sent a email effective immediately. I'm resigning because
Nice.
this job is
Yeah.
causing me harm physically and psychologically,
Yeah.
and I have to leave to preserve my own health. And I
Mhm.
called out the workplace bully, her minions,
Right.
all those people. I called them all out. And I CC'd a whole bunch of people. So I used to work for a school district, so the second largest school district in the nation. And I CC the superintendent of schools, right? So people say, well, does your job know? Yes, they know. The previous job, they know what
Mm.
happened. I'm very
Yeah.
open about it. I don't say the name, but
Mhm.
I want people to know what happens because, again, I'm not ashamed,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So those were all the things that happened to me. But I also wanted to share and be open about so many times that we lie to ourselves, or people are telling us things, or we're seeing signs, and we keep staying. We keep staying.
Yeah. Yeah, it's what you know. It's the devil you know.
Ugh,
What's
yeah,
gonna be out there beyond this? What happens next? There are all
yeah,
these questions, and so that can keep you up at night too with like,
yeah,
"Okay, I know I'm gonna leave, but now what's gonna happen next? How do I do it?" And it takes a lot of energy to figure out what your next steps are,
yeah. And
and if you're
then
already drained.
yes, and then I had some people around me, not my immediate family, but some people around me who are projecting their fears onto me.
Mhm,
Like, don't leave. That's a good government job. What are
mhm.
you doing? Like projecting all the fears to me. So I'm already scared about
Yeah,
what am I going to do. And
mhm.
then added layer of that,
Yeah.
then that kind of kept me there longer too.
Yeah. So you left. So what was the feeling immediately after you sent that email?
Oh my God, Kat, it was like liberation. That same day, I did a
Mm,
video, I did a short, which is still
mhm,
on my YouTube channel.
mhm.
You Won't Break My Soul, right? So I
Yes.
had You Won't Break My Soul in the background, and I was still like, I had like signs, and I was just
Mhm.
talking about I'm taking my power back. Like I've
Yeah,
resigned today. I'm so proud.
yeah.
Such a sense of liberation. I felt
I
such
know.
a sense of relief.
Yeah.
And it was like, I don't have to be dealing with dishonest people, morally bankrupt people, right?
Mhm.
I don't have to deal with trying to figure out how to maneuver and out. Da, da, da. I don't have to worry about that anymore. And my
Mhm.
hope was that I had no contact with these people ever again in my life, right? So it was such a sense of liberation. But the thing
Yeah.
about it too, and I want to highlight this, I had the sense of liberation too because I had already been working on my exit plan.
Yeah.
So when I was on leave of absence, I had already started working on my exit plan. I'd
Mhm.
already started replacing my income because that was an
Mhm.
unpaid leave. I'd already started replacing my income. I'd
Mm.
already been working with a financial psychologist who she's going to be one of the speakers at the summit.
Mhm.
I was already doing that. So I already had things in motion, right?
Mhm.
So it wasn't like, oh my God, I've left. I have nothing, right? I was
Right.
already prepared. So I was like, and I was proud of myself that I was able to walk through the fear because I was
Mhm.
terrified. I was terrified. But I walked
Mhm.
through that fear and I was like, nope. And I was obedient to God because I
Mhm.
heard that voice like I never heard before. And I was
Mhm.
like, okay, I got you. I got you.
Mhm.
I'm not gonna do this.
Yes, I asked for your advice, you gave it to me, and so
Man.
now I'm gonna take it. Yeah, that's too common, like, people will ask for the advice, and then they're like, "I don't like the advice. I'm not gonna take it." You're like, "This is hard, but you told me what to do, so here, I'm gonna do it."
Exactly.
Yeah, and step out on faith, but also step out onto the plan that you're building, right?
Yes.
Yeah,
Get ready.
yeah,
Get ready.
yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, so what about the person who quits and it's like, "What did I just do? What did I just do? What did I just do?" And the panic might flood in or all the questions and this it might what about this sense that it might be more stressful on the other side because I don't know
Mhm.
what's
Mhm.
next?
Well, that's when I say it's always good to plan, right? So
Mhm,
hopefully nobody is just up and quitting, that they
mm,
are very intentional about when they're going to quit. They have a plan in place. If you feel like there's a situation where you're about to immediately quit, if you could step away and just don't do it yet, right?
mm,
Unless you're in immediate danger. So physically and or psychologically about to have a nervous breakdown. Yeah.
mm,
Okay.
mhm,
But if
mhm,
not, I would say start getting yourself prepared. Start
mhm,
getting things in motion, get your exit plan together. Now that grain of what am I going to do, that fear, that anxiety, it's going to be there. So
mm,
no matter how much you plan, it's still going to be there, but that's part of the process. So recognize it's part of the process. You're going to
mm,
experience that, but hopefully you have people around you who will support you
mm.
as you're walking through the fear of executing your plan.
Yeah.
But I would just really emphasize planning, exit planning is extremely important. But knowing there's going to be some degree of what am I doing? That's normal.
Mm,
That's normal.
mm. Okay. Um, okay, good. So I wanted to talk about workplace stress.
Mhm,
And there's this continuum or this different ways of reacting to stress, the fight, the flight, and then fawn.
mhm,
And I think most people know about fight, flight, what that is. But can you talk about fawning
mhm.
and what that looks like in the workplace and how it might sort of bleed over into your regular non-work
Mhm,
life?
mhm. So fawning is kind of like you're trying to just be there and just hope that people just kind of pass you by, right? Like you're just trying to
Mm,
get along and you just like, right? But a lot of times what happens is that you start dimming, like you're going within
mhm,
because you don't want to kind of stand out, but you're just
mhm,
there, you're just stagnant. And so
mhm,
you go into the work environment, you might be feeling a certain way on your way to work, but you know that for you to be able to just not people pay attention. You're masking. You're doing a
mm,
lot of masking all day, and that is
mhm.
extremely exhausting. So
Yes.
physically and psychologically, so exhausting. Then when
Mhm.
you leave the job, the part about self-loathing might come up
Mm,
again. I'm so this, I'm so that,
mm,
this, and I saw this
right.
happening. I didn't do anything, right?
Mhm.
So then you're carrying that over to when you get home. So by
Yeah.
the time you get home, you are depleted. You're depleted,
Mhm.
a shell of a person,
Mm.
been masking all day,
Yes,
right?
and people pleasing, there's so much people pleasing, and
And then
saying that you're interested in something when you're not, saying yes to a project when you don't wanna do it, and all of this, shucking and jiving, and it does
oh,
take a
shucking and jiving.
lot. It does
Yes,
take so
right?
much.
Yes,
Yes.
and then feeling on some level like I'm complicit in what's happening to me, right?
Mm.
Because I'm not speaking up, I'm acting like everything's okay, and I'm not okay with that. So then
Mhm.
what does that mean about me? So then
Mm.
you're reprocessing all that stuff when you get home, and
Mhm.
you're just not available to people you care about because you're still dealing with all that stuff. And so
Mhm.
all of that too can make you feel like I'm stuck. Like there's no other way, there's no other place for me to go. I'm stuck
Mhm.
here. I got to stay in this role of
Mm.
like just acting like I'm okay with everything. And I'm
Mm.
really not, right? So you start feeling like you're an imposter, right?
Mhm.
Like this is not even who I am. Like
Mhm.
who am I? And
Yeah.
that's to disconnect from yourself. So disconnect from your emotions. And that's
Yes.
very unhealthy too.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, so after you quit a job, and if you've been in that role of pretending and masking and people pleasing and all of that, like, once you're out of that environment, how do you undo those behaviors? How do you unplug from that?
Well, I would absolutely say therapy,
Mm,
right? So I think that therapy is important throughout this whole process. So
mm,
when you're in a toxic job or dysfunctional work environment, and as you're preparing to leave, to help you with the fears and talking that out, and
mm,
then also once you leave. So once you leave, that's when the healing really starts. And
mhm,
so being able to talk about what were the because many times when you think about how you behaved in the workplace, and I have to practice this myself, the way you behaved in the workplace was very much influenced by survival. So
mhm,
you were assessing what needs to happen, what do I need to do? Okay, I'll try to assimilate to this situation, right? Because I need this job, I want to keep this job. So recognizing you made those decisions based upon where you were at that time. So
mhm.
you have to learn how to practice self-forgiveness and say,
Yeah,
I forgive myself
yeah,
for things that I've done or choices I've made, whatever, because of
yeah.
the situation. But
Mhm,
that process, it takes a long time, right?
mm,
You start remembering all the injustices and all the things you witnessed, but the self-forgiveness is important. And
mm,
having a therapist or an objective person who can remind you of, do you remember what it was like when you were there? Like, because sometimes
mhm,
your mind starts like, what? Maybe it wasn't that bad. No, no,
mhm.
it really was that bad. It really was.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, I actually, so people talk about the need to
Hmm.
document if you're in a toxic environment where you're being harmed, you
Hmm.
document. The other kind of documentation that I like to add is take a video of yourself when you're at your desk crying.
Ooh.
Take a video of
That.
yourself when you're sitting in the car, not wanting to go into that office,
Ooh. Ooh.
so that when you after you quit your job, you can be like, "Should I have quit?" You look
Wow.
at one of those videos, you're like, "I am not going back to that.
Wow.
That was where I was." Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
profound.
Yeah.
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 Now that's an intervention right there.
Yeah. Yeah, that is you telling yourself, "We're not doing that again.
Wow.
We're not
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
not who I am. I'm not
Yeah.
doing
Like,
that."
do you remember being in this broken space?
Yes.
Mm.
Yes. And we will forget. We'll be like, "Oh, it wasn't that bad. Oh,
Yeah.
it was okay." Then you
Yeah.
see yourself sitting in that car
Ooh.
talking about, Yeah. Yeah. That's the kind of documentation that'll keep you moving forward, I think.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, okay, so regrets, we got that. Money fears. Okay, what about money fears?
Oh my God.
Mm,
That was the thing that kept me. That was the
mhm.
main thing. Now there are other
Yeah,
things too, right?
yeah.
So being committed to the work, being
Mhm,
committed to, I'm gonna fight for Black students, like that, yes,
mhm,
right?
mhm,
But the fears about how am I gonna replace my income? What am I gonna do about health insurance?
mhm.
Like that was it, right? And
Yeah.
so that's why, when I was thinking about it and when I was in therapy, we were identifying, well, what are the things keeping you at the job?
Mm,
How do we address those issues? So, finances. So,
yeah.
okay, so that means that you have to address your finances. So, how do you do that? Well, I knew I couldn't do it on my own because I got money issues, right? So
Mm,
I was like, okay, who do I need to work with who can help me confront what the money issue is? So I need to be reality based, like,
mhm,
where's the money? What do I need to do? Whatever. So then I learned about Dr. Roche Brown, who's a financial psychologist, and I immediately started working with her. And we
mhm,
started working and coming up with, okay, where are your finances right now? Where are your expenses? What money do you need to come in? How do you replace your income? Let's look at how long that might take, right?
mm,
And she was the one who was like, she's looking at all my stuff. And she's like, you're going to be okay. Like, you're going to be more than okay. It's okay
mhm.
for you to leave. And
Right.
that gave me such a greater sense of comfort about
Yes.
moving on.
Yes, looking at the numbers.
Oh my God, you have
Mm,
to look at the numbers,
mhm,
right? You have
mhm.
to. And I think
Yeah.
a lot of us avoid, and then we assume oh, I can't because of, okay, but have you looked at the numbers?
Mhm.
Have you looked at ways to replace your income? How much might that be? Like, let's come up with an actual plan without it being fear-based and making these
Mm.
assumptions. And you don't know.
Mhm. Yes. Um, so I have to ask you, because I know you and Marissa are planning the summit and you're
Mm,
very busy. I've
yeah.
seen you doing a lot of lives lately.
Woo,
I'm wondering, Dr. Kimani, are you being a good boss to yourself?
Oh, I like that question. Yes.
Mhm.
And in fact, when Stephanie Perry interviewed me, I think was it a year ago? Maybe a
Mm.
year ago, with Black Women Leaving Toxic Jobs. She said, I want to give you a word of advice. Don't become your own toxic boss, right?
Mm,
And
mhm,
I was like, oh, that's not possible. I would never be anything like that. But what I came to understand was I love this work so much and I get so immersed in it that I can work really long hours, right? So
mhm,
today I have a lot of live scheduled because I'm excited about this work. But
mhm,
for me, I'm not a toxic boss for several reasons. One is I recognize when I'm tired.
mm,
And if I'm tired, I take a moment, take a brief nap. The second thing is I don't overload my schedule. So now I got a lot of stuff on my schedule, but if it's like it's too much, then I say, okay, well, I'm gonna do these things today and I'll just save the rest for another day. Not a
mhm,
big deal. It's okay. The other thing is I stop at a certain time. Like I'm not gonna be up all night,
mhm,
doing stuff or whatever. But
mm,
the main thing is that I love the work that I'm doing right now. I love it.
mhm,
So it's not that, I can't stand it. I can't stand somebody telling me what to do and I don't respect them and none of that. And I choose to work with people whom I really respect and whom I
mhm.
really like.
Yeah.
And now I've built a whole community of Black women around me, and we're all like minded, right? So
Mhm,
nobody is trying to like do something behind my back or betray
mhm,
me like at the
mhm.
other job. I
Yeah.
don't have that. So I
Mhm.
surround myself with all positive people. And so the environment, the experience is totally, and I work from where I want to work, right?
Yes.
I work from home, I work from co-working, I work from wherever I want to work, and
Mhm.
I can choose who I want to work with.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you have after the summit, do you have some days off scheduled on your calendar? Did you put them on your
Oh,
calendar?
oh, good question. I think I need to do that. I need to
That's a
do
good
that.
idea.
I say I
Thank
haven't
you.
even thought of that far, right? I've been so consumed thinking about the summit,
Mhm.
haven't thought about that.
Yeah.
But yes, I'm going to do that.
I think that's a good idea because you're the hardest working woman in show business right now.
I'm out here. And what's so funny, Kat, is that when I think about so today I have 4 lives today, right? But what's so funny about that is I am such a private person.
Huh.
Like nobody would ever know I'm such a private person.
Mm,
Before all this stuff happened, Kat, I had no social media,
mm.
none. When I
Yeah.
launched my business, I didn't even want to take a photo shoot, right? It
Right.
was like
Yeah.
I don't want to be out there, whatever.
Mhm.
But sometimes you have these experiences that push you
Mm.
to a point where you're like, "Oh, wait a minute," right? And then you start doing something, and then you start getting reinforcements around you like, "Yeah, this is the right path for you. This is it," right?
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
so I'm moving past that sense of I'm a private person. Now, of
Yeah.
course, there's certain things I'm not gonna share
Yeah.
online,
Yeah.
right?
Of
But
course.
otherwise, if I'm helping other Black women, I'm all about it.
Mm. I have a question about, um, say there's a woman watching who has a toxic job now.
Mhm,
She knows that she needs to get out of there and she wants to get another job, doesn't want to start business or something like that. She just wants to get another job
mhm,
that will, pay the bills.
mhm.
How can she recognize what are some of the signs of another toxic job? Like
Ooh,
what can she look for?
mhm.
What can she avoid?
Mhm. Yes. Okay. So first, I would say please do some research before you say yes to another job, right? So if you're looking at certain companies, please start researching. Do you know employees who currently work there? Talk to them, ask about their experiences. Ask them if you had to reapply to this job, would you do that? That's
Mm,
number one. Number two, start looking on Glassdoor, Indeed. What are people saying about working there? Do your research. That's number
mm,
one. Because when you go to an interview, of course, they're trying to give you the best scenario, whatever, whatever, right? That's one thing. when you go into the interview, if you ask them, so the last person who was in this position, how long were they there? Are you able to share just generally what their reasons were for leaving, right? And then let's say you've done all that, everything goes well in the interview, you get to the job, and you start that gut feeling like something's not right, pay attention to that. So if you see or if you hear, like there's other examples of people who have been workplace bullied in that environment, really bad sign, because that's a toxic work environment. Because if you have a workplace bully and the system knows it's a workplace bully and they don't check that person, that is a very bad sign, because that person is going to make the whole environment toxic, right?
It's just so bad.
And then the upper management co-signs with it, right? So then the
Yes.
workplace bully thinks that they can run amok and do whatever because nobody's checking them, right?
Yes.
So if you know there's a workplace bully, watch out. That's a huge red flag. The other thing is, if you notice that people are gossiping all the time, really bad sign. First of all, it's not professional. Second is boundaries, right? And if you look at, they're going to be gossiping about you too. So if they start asking you about your personal business, they're like very, don't tell your personal business. Share like the bare minimum, that you will be okay with other people talking about, because more than likely they're going to be sharing your personal business with other people, right? The other thing is, if you notice people who are saying critical things about other people, but they're like, "Oh, I'm just joking. I'm just joking." Watch out for those people too, right? Because there's something going on here. There might be some jealousy going on. Watch out for those people. And if you see there's no opportunities for growth for you. So you get there and you're like, where can I possibly go in this company? Like this seems like a dead end. So those are some of the smaller, but there could be so many. But what I ultimately say is, when you feel in your gut like something is not right here, more than likely it's not right. And pay attention to that, please.
Yeah. So there are some triggers, I guess, like it could be other people or like a micromanaging manager, something like that. It could be it could be something actually happening in the new environment, or it could be a holdover from your old job. Because I noticed after I quit my my job that was in a dysfunctional environment,
Yes.
and I did like a 6-month sort of a bridge job, a contract. I was looking for the similar, like I kept looking out for the same things that I'd seen in my previous job. And I was just waiting, almost waiting for the other shoe to drop. And it didn't necessarily. So there, it could be that, or it could be a holdover. So
Yeah.
like once bitten, twice shy kind of thing, like you're looking for it. And it may be there, or it may just be like, okay, this is if it's a good work environment, it might take a while for you to stop looking for that trigger.
Yeah, you're like on survival mode. So when you've been beat down and harmed, of course, we don't want to repeat that. So we go into another environment, we're always mindful of, okay, this is similar to what happened before,
I
right?
know.
Now, therapy might also be helpful for that, to be able to say, okay, now I'm having this feeling, and the therapist can talk to you about, okay, so what data in that environment is supporting you having that feeling or not?
Yeah.
And then you're
Yeah.
able to kind of move through it.
Yes, the documentation again, like, oh, there was a little comment there. Let me just take a note of that. Is
Yes.
that something or is that not something? Is that
Mhm.
okay? Just document. Just document. I think, yeah, that's a
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
You mentioned boundaries. I spoke with Marissa Price last month about boundaries, and mostly we were talking about boundaries in our personal lives. But I'm wondering about boundaries at work. Those can be harder because there's that, manager to employee kind of power dynamic. How do you set good boundaries at your workplace?
Well, it is difficult, because if you have a supervisor who is doing certain things, and you may not necessarily agree with, let's say that you have a supervisor who's gossiping about other employees,
Mm,
right?
Mm.
that puts you in a very awkward position because the power differential, right? So sometimes you might engage in behaviors that you're not really happy about,
Mm.
but you're not perpetuating it, right? So if a supervisor's doing this, part of what you can do is not gossip what they just shared with you with somebody else, right? So
Mhm.
that's you trying to make a boundary based upon what has happened. The
Mm.
other thing is, like I said before, be very mindful of what personal information you share with other people. That is
Mhm.
the boundary, right? So,
Yeah.
people go to happy hours and all that other kind of stuff. Be mindful of that, right? Because
Loose lips sink ships.
girl, mindful of that. Be mindful of that. So the
Mm.
boundaries, being very clear with coworkers about what information you share, you don't share,
Mm.
and be very clear with that you are not spreading gossip as well. So they
Yeah.
might tell you something, but don't, or even say, I don't feel comfortable receiving this information. You know
Yeah.
what I'm saying? Just set a boundary there.
Yeah.
Like, I don't want to keep hearing
Yeah.
this negative stuff about
Yeah. That's true. I don't need to hear that. Thanks,
yeah,
though.
that's okay.
Mm-mm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not the
Yeah.
one. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't need to hear all that.
No.
Let's see. Good boss. Toxic work environment. Yeah, I think we got it. So yes, I guess maybe tell us what you did to heal after you were out of that work environment. You got a therapist. You work with a financial
Psychologist.
psychologist.
Huh?
You built a community of support around you. What
Mhm.
other things did you that maybe you didn't mention so far? Are there other things that you did to help you heal?
Yeah, I regularly talk on YouTube.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah.
as I've been co-planning the job liberation virtual summit for Black women with Marissa,
Mm.
like I've noticed like a lot of memories about the old job are like flooding,
Mm.
like they're just coming back, right?
Mhm.
And so again, it's like I don't want that toxicity in my system.
Yeah.
So I talk about it. So that's part of my healing. And Glamazini talks about healing out loud. So people are
Mm.
bearing witness to me healing out loud. So I'm talking about what I experienced. I'm going to do the video coming out tomorrow, I think, about
Mm.
my own mental health symptoms when I was at the job. So
Mhm.
that's my continued healing. The
Mhm.
other thing that I do is if I start experiencing stress, something I did when I was on the leave was I created a garden, and so
Mm.
part of that was symbolic. So clearing
Mm.
out all the weeds. So I viewed the
Mm.
whole job was those that was weeds.
Mhm.
So I planted just fruits and vegetables. So when I experience stress, then I go out to my garden and I remove, the weeds. And again, that reminds me of the progress that I've made and that I
Mm.
continue to make and reminds me that I have agency, right?
Yeah.
That we did that whole thing, right? And
Mhm.
we were able to recreate something beautiful that wasn't. And as Black people, the fact that we have land and we're able to grow and eat
Yeah.
from our land when
Mhm.
our ancestors weren't able to do that
Mm.
reminds me of as Black people, we were not able to leave jobs that were toxic,
Right.
right? And so
Yeah.
as I am planting or doing things in my garden, it reminds me of, wow, look how far I've come. And to
Mm.
me, it feels like I'm in honor of our ancestors that I'm able to do,
Yeah.
right?
Mhm.
That's extremely healing to go out
Mhm.
in nature and to go into my garden. I have 2 dogs that I love, and
Mm.
they are just one of the dogs we got during the pandemic, and then the other dog, which was his sister, I named her Joy. And I named
Mm.
her Joy. It was very intentional. I named her Joy
I love
because when I
that.
was at the toxic job, I would wake up in dread every day. Every day,
Mm.
right? Not the whole time, but like towards the end, every day.
Mm. Mhm.
So I got Joy and I named her Joy because I want to remind myself that I'm waking up to joy every day, right?
Mhm.
So I see Joy and Joy is like full of energy and everything.
Yeah.
So I have joy. I see joy and I'm reminded
Mm.
of joy every day. And then I
Mhm.
continue to do things that feed my soul, right? So
Mhm.
pray, continue to listen to music, dance, spend time with my family, spend time with good friends. I've built a really good community as a result of being on YouTube. Who would ever
Mhm.
thought? But
Mhm.
now I'm creating the life that I want for myself and being
Yeah.
intentional about what makes me feel good. What
Mhm.
do I want to do? And doing those things.
Nice. That's beautiful.
Yes.
That's
My life
beautiful.
is so much different compared
Mm,
to 2 years ago.
mhm.
2 years
Yeah,
ago.
you
Yeah.
created it. You created it.
Mhm.
You you went across that really big boundary. There's like quitting a job. It's a big leap. It's a
It's
big
huge.
hurdle.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we don't take it lightly,
Mhm.
but it can be a huge life-changing decision in
Yes.
a good way, in a good way.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And what's so interesting, Kat, is that people from my old job reach out to me sometimes, right? And, if I ever have like an inkling of thought, like, oh, well, maybe no, because when I hear back I hear from them, they reach out to me and they
Mm,
tell me how horrible it is. And I'm like, oh my God. Like literally, I was talking to
mm.
a Black woman a few weeks ago, and she's telling me about some stuff at the old job. And literally, Kat, I got off the phone with her and I said, thank you, God, for
Yes,
getting me out of that place, right? And then
yes.
I had another, not that far from that call, I had another Black woman from the previous job contact me, and
Mhm.
I didn't know her before, but she told me the job is stressing her out, and because of the stress, she had a heart attack, and then
What?
she's like, yeah, but she was laughing, Kat. She's like, I had a heart attack, and then I went back to work the next day, and I was like, wait a minute,
No, no.
Kat. So I was like, wait a minute. Did you say you had a heart attack and you went back to work the next day? And she's like, yeah. She's laughing. And I'm like, what?
That is disassociation, like, where are you and where's your body? Like, is she, like, looking at her life up from up above or something? Like, why?
It was so
It's
sad. It was
so
so
terrible.
heartbreaking. So I
It's so
said, so
terrible.
so what is it that you plan to do? And she said, well, I'm going to stay there because I'm not going to let them run me out of here.
This again.
And I said, I don't know you. I just met you, but I'm concerned about you. You just told me you had a heart
Mm,
attack. You said you went back to work. Is it worth it? Is it worth it? And I think a lot of Black women are stuck in that
yeah,
place, right?
yeah.
Like, I'm not gonna let you run me out of here. I've
Mhm.
invested too much time. Or this one I hear, I'm gonna make them respect me. I'm like, they're not gonna respect
Please,
you no matter
child,
what
do
you
you
do.
respect them? Like,
Do
why
you
do you
respect
want the
yourself?
respect of people who you don't respect?
And do
That
you respect yourself enough to
right.
say, I want to live. I
Yeah.
want to live a good life.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you mentioned your ancestors, and that was one thing that I looked to, when I was needing to quit my job. I have, like, a stack of index cards, and each of the, people in my family that I know as far back as I can go, I have a card for each of them with all their details, their name, their birthdays, and, like, where they were born, where they died, and, like, anything I know about them, who they're related to, who their sisters, brothers, parents are. And during that time, I found a couple of my ancestors who had escaped from slavery, and I was, like, constantly talking to them. I was like,
Wow.
I need the energy of escape.
Wow.
I need to kinda channel what you guys did because it was
Yeah.
harder than what I'm doing.
Yeah.
I need that help. I need that push. I need that energy to, like, let's do this.
Yeah.
This is not so the idea of I'm not gonna let them run me out of here. I'm like, but if you're on a plantation and you're being tortured, why would you not
Yeah.
why would you wanna stay? Like, you have to recognize where you are,
Right.
and you have to recognize it for what it is. There's
Mhm.
no winning in that situation.
Exactly. What are you
There's no
trying to
winning.
win?
Yes.
Even if there what would you possibly win in this
Yeah.
situation, right? But
Yeah.
when you recognize, again, the system is toxic,
Mm.
you trying to stay there longer, or you're gonna
Mm.
get harmed even more, right?
Yeah.
And then you become the biggest loser. You're not a winner.
Yeah.
You become the
Yeah.
biggest loser because
Yeah.
you've done all this for what?
Yes. Yeah, it's like, do you wanna win or do you wanna be happy? It's kind of one
Do
or
you
the
wanna win or
other.
do you wanna live?
Right.
And win
Right.
what?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So let's talk about the summit.
Yes, let's talk
Tell us
about
about it.
yes. So the Job Liberation Virtual Summit for Black Women is May 18th and 19th. So Marissa Price and I are co-hosting this summit. And we're so excited because we're both toxic job survivors. We're both mental health professionals. And so we came together. It actually was Marissa's idea because, we all do our things to help support Black women. But we really want to think about how do we support a larger number of Black women, and how do we identify all the things that might keep a Black woman in a toxic job? So when we did that, we came up with certain topics we wanted to have covered. We reached out to Black women and they all said yes. So we're so excited for the lineup. We also have Black women sponsors. So just in terms of the lineup, so it's 2 days again, right? So we're going to kick it off with Stephanie Perry talking about job detox, because we need to detox our minds, right? Because we get in this mentality of, this is the only place I can work and my job is who I am. No. So we have to address that and the fears of leaving. So she's going to kick it off. And then we're going to have Kira talking about burnout, because a lot of us experience burnout, but we don't realize until we're knee deep in it. Okay. So how do you recognize the signs of burnout, what to do about it? And then we're going to have Kamisha Jones talking about the mental health impact of being in a toxic job, because it can be significant. Okay.
Yes.
What to do about that? And then we're going to have Dr. Robin Scott talking about sleep and ways that a toxic job can mess up your sleep. It messed up my sleep so much, right? So how it can mess up your sleep, and some sleep skills that you can learn to regain your sleep back. And then we're going to end day one with Alicia Renese talking about ways to reconnect to our joy and our dreams. So much of that was robbed from me at that toxic job. But so how do we connect to that, right? Then day two kicks off with Emery Archer, the anti-HR lady, talking about issues of discrimination and severance, which might be an issue for a lot of people. And then we're going to have Libria Jones talking about how to find remote work, freelance contract work. Patrice is going to be talking about side hustles, how to create one, because that might be that bridge to help you kind of financially get ready to leave. And then Marissa and I are going to be talking about creating your own business, if that's something you want to do, using the skills you already have. Because when you think about a job, you got a lot of skills that you brought to that job. So are there some ways you can create your own business based upon that? And then we're going to end day two with Dr. Roche Brown, who is the financial psychologist whom I work with to get my financial plan together. So she's going to be talking about financial exit planning, also options for health insurance, retirement, and life insurance, because that keeps us there too. Not only the money, but the so-called good benefits. And then there's different tiers of tickets, right? So there's general admission. The other one is you come in and you get general admission, but you also get the recording. So general admission, you don't get the recording. And then you also get my workbook, Welcome to Your Queendom Digital Fillable Workbook, which is a workbook that I created for myself, like a roadmap to help me get my mind right so I can get ready to leave a toxic job. And then the highest tier is all of that, the recording, the workbook, and then an additional 1 hour masterclass that following Monday with Dr. Roche Brown to really get your financial exit plan together. And then we're doing all of this, and we want Black women to know about options, but the how to, right? So the one part is the mindset, but the other part is the how to, the practical skills of getting your exit plan together based upon when you want to go. So that's tomorrow, but whenever you're ready to go, you will be ready. It's always good to be ready. And Marissa and I are very mindful that, as Black women, we don't want people in our business. And sometimes the jobs are shady, right? So none of the participants will be seen on camera. Their names will not be listed. If they have a question or comment, they can change their name in the platform. And we got so many things. And there's an option to sponsor a Black woman to go to the summit. So if you've already registered, you can also sponsor a Black woman to come. Or if you're like, maybe not for me, but I can sponsor a Black woman, because Marissa and I are ushering in a movement right now, right? So we are working, our mission now is to get 500 Black women coming to this Job Liberation Virtual Summit this year. And so we're at like 200 now. So we're trying to get 500, and we will get there. So we need everyone to register, share this information with other Black women. If you want to sponsor a Black woman, just email me. Kat can put my email information in the chat, and just email me and you can sponsor a Black woman as well. So opportunities for liberation, right? But the part about it that I want Black women to know is You might feel defeated. You might feel like there's no way. You might feel all those things that I know I felt too. But you will be leaving with an exit plan that you don't need to share with anybody, right? Nobody needs to know you come to the summit. You don't need to tell your coworkers. You don't need to tell anybody. But come and get prepared. Get ready.
Mhm. Nice. Yes. Get your plan together. This
Yes.
is, yeah, this is going to be so useful for so many women. This is great.
Yes. Thank
Yes.
you.
Yes. Thank you. I think we're good. I think we did it. I think folks know how to reach you, and I put all your contact information. I put your website and the link to register for the virtual summit. And yeah, I think it's going to be a wonderful experience, a wonderful event.
Agreed.
Very useful,
Agreed.
very helpful. Yeah,
Thank you.
practical, and get your mind right. Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. Thank you, thank you. All
Thank you.
right, I think we did it. I think we're good,
Yeah.
and yeah, I think it's wonderful. I will see you all around the internet.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Yes, you will.
Yes, yes, and be a good boss to yourself. Remember to schedule those days
Absolutely.
off.
Absolutely. I took the mental notes of what you were saying to me.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
point taken.
good,
Thank
good,
you.
good, good. Good. All right. Well, thank you. Stay
Thank
on for afterwards. But otherwise, bye everyone. Thank you.
you.
Bye. Mhm.